kicking off in style. Viewers tuning in for Tyne Tees' very first night were treated to a lively mix of song and dance. It ushered in a new era of regional television. Here was a programme made for the North East, in the North East. In the spotlight that night, EILEEN GRINSELL, who sang a famous aria from the opera Carmen. 60 years on, I sat down with EILEEN to look back on a night that she still describes as a dream come true.
How does it feel watching it back?
Brilliant. Oh, it was great, yes.
How proud did you feel personally to be part of that opening night?
Very, very proud. I kept thinking, God, there's a few singers out there that would give their back teeth just do this. And I was chosen. So I had to give it all. And I did. I was Carmen on that night, yeah.
The Tyne Tees studios were created from former warehouse buildings on City Road in Newcastle. While this was the hub of activity, outside broadcast vehicles were soon seen out and about on the streets of the North East. These were pioneering days, so perhaps no surprise when the station attracted a young Mike Neville, setting out on a broadcasting journey that would span 5 decades.
Where ships are born and saints were buried. This is the fame of the weir.
Television was comparatively new then, and most of us, were new to television. So we were all learning at the same time, and it was marvellous fun. It's a business now. It was great fun then. We all made our own mistakes regularly, and it was marvellous.
These images from an early Tyne Tees documentary series seem reassuringly familiar. But times have changed in the past half-century or so. This broadcast from a Stockton nightclub in 1968 included a Miss Tyne Tees Television competition.
Congratulations, Margaret, congratulations.
Within its first decade, Tyne Tees had set out an ambitious stall, achieving a major coup by hosting this interview with the Duke of Edinburgh.
Prince Philip, you must have many television invitations much nearer home. Why, in fact, have you accepted this one?
Well, I was very flattered by the invitation and the letter, which seemed to imply that the people living in this part of the country felt that they were slightly away from the centre of things, and the idea of this series was to make them feel that they were part of the whole business.
It was around this time that Tyne Tees employed the country's first black TV news broadcaster, Clyde EILEEN. In a memorable meeting, he came face-to-face with Dr. Martin Luther King when the civil rights leader visited Newcastle in 1967.
Violent revolts grow out of revolting conditions.
A lot of these conditions are arising in England. A lot of people feel that legislation is the answer. Do you think legislation is the answer?
Well, I wouldn't say it's the only answer, but I do feel that it is a step in the right direction.
These were enlightening times for viewers and exciting times for the young team behind the programmes. Dave DIXON began working for Tyne Tees as a film processor in the mid-60s, becoming a cameraman in 1972.
I was extremely proud of working for Tyne Tees in the region. It sounds a bit grand, but we're there to entertain and inform the public, and it's the public that mattered because that's the audience. There were the benefits, like lots of fun. We did used to say it's not like a proper job, but it was a proper job, and some days it took some doing to actually get through a day's work if the weather was against you and everything else was against you, and that hasn't changed today.
Thanks to that approach, Tyne Tees became an established feature of North East life, following well-known names such as athlete Brendan Foster and the artist L.S. Lowry.
Man.
In 1977, we charted visits by 3 of the most famous figures on the planet. US President Jimmy Carter.
How are the lads?
the Queen on her Silver Jubilee tour, and the global icon Muhammad Ali, who was invited to the region to help raise money for local boys' clubs.
I can go home and look at the map and say, I know people, I have friends and fans and brothers and sisters in this country. That's what's so rewarding.
Will that help you when you get down to training for your next fight in September?
That'll help me. That's a good question, because I realize how many people are watching me.
Asking the questions that day, Roger Tames, who would go on to become Tyne Tees head of sport.
What was it like to interview the most famous person in the world?
It was only in my second year of being a reporter at Tyne Tees, and without doubt it's got to be the high spot. There was nowhere to go after that. He was the hero that I'd grown up with, and then to meet him, and more than anything else what I remember about him, he was just so physically imposing, and I got the famous photograph because Tyne Tees had a photographer there for some reason, and it is one of my most treasured possessions.
The excitement surrounding Muhammad Ali's visit captured the spirit of the age, much as EILEEN GRINSELL's live performance had done when Tyne Tees made its debut almost 20 years before. And there was much more to come, as you'll see when we continue our 60th anniversary story tomorrow night.